All right, I want to welcome everybody into the Fifth Dimension podcast with me, Evan McDermod. Look at for this episode, I want to do a celebration, if you will, a ceremonial celebration for Seasons of Becoming. The poetry collection that I've been working on for the past year is now out and available. And, you know, for me, it represents transformation, represents renewal, represents stepping into my own, stepping into oneself. And so, what I want to do with this podcast is speak a little bit to those key themes, but allow this in itself to be a letting go process, a surrendering process to, a lot of those themes, a lot of those milestones, a lot of those ideas that were spoken about in that poetic exploration and how I've learned uh, to become me, surrendering it, stepping into the next chapter. And it feels very fitting recording this on 11/11, November 11th. And it's been quite the day already. I got to tell you, it's been a magical day. Shaved my beard. I mean, that's number one. Shaved the beard, went back to the mustache for a little bit. It's the month of November, and we got Movember. It's supposed to be men's health awareness and particularly mental health. Um, so I'm like, hey, let's go back. Let's do the mustache from November. And I think selfishly, I kind of just wanted to do it again. November is a good reason to do it. I could cite that and say, hey, it's November, but also I get to rock the mustache again. So we back, baby. We back. We'll see how long it sticks around. And what's funny is I just bought this little wizard behind me. He's got this long gray beard, and like, hey, that's me on there. And I just shaved the beard right after I bought the wizard. So I no longer look like that. So I'm like, all right. Only one person in this podcast studio can have a wizard beard, and it's this guy back here. So I had to get rid of it. I had to go with the mustache for a little bit just so he could hold the beard supremacy, if you will. Um, but I mean, that's not all that happened today. I mean, that's not the only magic of 11/11. Just went and was sitting under the northern lights for a little bit, the lights of Aurora, and I'm not gonna dive too deep into the sentimental aspects of the Northern Lights for me, but they are very, very sentimental, very emotional for me to go out and just sit under there and give thanks and gratitude and pray. I was sitting there and saw a shooting star go by, and it's just, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Go follow me on Instagram. I'll put up a couple pictures of them just to document it. But it feels very fitting that on this day, and what feels like a day of transformation and letting go and surrender to see the magic in the sky, regardless of, I mean, people debate the source of Aurora Borealis. It's a conspiracy for another day, I suppose. But you can still sit under it and feel a sense of reverence and beauty and appreciation for the gifts that this life has to offer, man. Like I said, it's very sentimental for me to reflect on the very first Northern Lights experience I ever had. I'll always look back as one of the most wonderful memories, one of the most wonderful memories that I do have. And I'm not going to share it. I'll keep it in here in the heart. But I always get very sentimental and appreciative when I can sit under the vast magic that is Aurora. That's why I named my cat Aurora. It's part of the reason that the lights are always very special to me. So if you get the opportunity and you see it in your little Northern Lights forecast, just go out and don't do it just to like snap a pic and be like, oh, cool, saw them. Like really sit and see yourself within them and come into the space of the heart. Like it's a beautiful, beautiful opportunity whenever they come out to do that. So I'm very grateful I was able to do that today. And that's where I'm coming from. Just went out and did that. And I felt like the time was now to do this podcast. A great way to support the podcast. If you want to buy a copy of Seasons of Becoming, it is available now on Amazon. I appreciate anybody who decides to go and buy a copy. Obviously, I didn't write it for the money necessarily. I wrote it because it's an expression of the journey, an expression of my creativity, an expression of who I am. So if you want to read it and support it, I really appreciate it. If you want a signed copy sent to you, just shoot me a message. I'm not going to charge you much more than what it is on Amazon, so you can always get a copy in that way. And I'm happy to write a little note in there and thank you for your support. I got a few copies that I'm sending out in the next couple days in the mail. Uh, so let me know. Let me know if you'd like a signed copy of Seasons of Becoming. I'm always greatly appreciative of anybody who's tuning in, first and foremost. Like, I mean, the show would continue even if nobody listened. It would just be me speaking into a microphone with zero audience. But I'm greatly appreciative of all of you who decide to tune in and make this a part of your day. Like that's just kind of cool to me because I'm very conscious about the content I consume, and I assume based on the fact that uh, you are too as a listener of this show, and we talk about things like that. I don't take that for granted. I really don't. It's a beautiful thing once you really sit back and think about it. So thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. And if you purchase a copy of Seasons of Becoming, thank you for doing so. I really do appreciate it. You can let me know what you think of the poems uh, by leaving a review on Amazon if you'd like. I really do appreciate the reviews on there. I heard you need 60 reviews to like bump up into the next like stage of the algorithm. I got one review on there right now. So hey, if you're listening to this, and honestly, if even a fraction of the people who do tune in went and left a review, we'd hit that 60. So maybe consider going to leave a review. I'll have the Amazon link as the first thing right in the episode show notes below, so you can it takes 30 seconds to go leave a review, even if you haven't read the book yet. Now, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that or you're supposed to review it if you haven't read it, but you've heard probably enough of the poems by now to go leave a review. So consider leaving an Amazon review. And if you leave 1 star, well, I guess it is what it is. I won't be too offended. I might be like, oh, wow, only 1 star. That's unfortunate. But I would appreciate 5 stars if you do enjoy it or you do enjoy the podcast. Or you just think my mustache is cool, like maybe write that in the review. Evan's got a cool mustache. Welcome back, mustache man. you know, Clearly I'm still adjusting. I'm like looking at, I got the screen pulled up and I can see myself. I'm like, wow, that's a change. That's why I brought it up again. But anyways, yeah, I want this podcast to serve as an opportunity for not just myself, but anybody listening to really step into this next stage of your own transformation process, of your own growth. I really believe we are constantly in this hero's journey. We are constantly in the state of transition and working to better ourselves. There's no end, right? And that's the illusion of it. Once you hit an end, it's really just a new beginning. It's a new opportunity to kind of rehone your vision, rehone your craft, rehone what you're doing, right? And that's what I've been doing this last week or two. It's like an internal death moment, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about that. I'll obviously have to bring my own experiences and kind of what I'm feeling and seeing into this podcast, and I think maybe there'll be some vulnerability in having to do that. Um, but there's no end, and so I want to step into this space with a sense of reverence and with a sense of recognition that we're all at different points of our journey, but I think we can really abide by a lot of the same principles when it comes to becoming the person that we are meant to be. And part of the illusion of that, part of the paradox of that is that you already are that person. I mean, that's the key when we're talking about manifestation. You have to embody it in order to become it. And and that's in the sense of like manifesting into the future, right? You want the future to look like this. Well, you got to embody that now. And that's been a big learning lesson for me is total radical embodiment in the present moment with aligned with the energy that I would like to attract into my life. Knowing my worth, knowing my value, knowing who I am and not settling for people walking all over me in a certain sense, right? Not settling when somebody decides they're not going to choose me in love, or not that, they're not going to appreciate what I have to offer. And that's all right. Like, people have the right to choose who we let into our little worlds in a sense, right? And I think that's a beautiful thing. I don't take it personally if somebody's gonna say, "Hey, man, man, you're not for me." It is what it is, right? Hey, cool. Hey, your poetry, it ain't for me. I don't really like poetry. I don't really vibe with that. You're talking about some concepts I'm uncomfortable with. This podcast's really not for me, right? I got some 1-star reviews on the podcast. If you want to leave a review, you can. We can bump that podcast review rating up too. It's not really all about that. I actually really like that on Spotify. My average rating is 4.4 stars and I have 44 reviews. So if anything, I don't really want any more podcast reviews on Spotify. If you're on Spotify and you're going to go leave a review, when it's at 4.4 and 44 reviews, it best be 5 stars. Like, come on. It's just a synchronized number for me. So, and I love synchronized numbers. Anytime I go to the gas station, I get $33.33 worth of gas. Don't matter, like, if my tank's gonna fit a little more. I'm stopping at 33.33. All right, let's have somebody pull up to the pump next and be like, "Wow, a synchronicity." That's right, that was me. It's just little things like that. I'm like, I don't know where that comes from, but I just do it. But but yeah, becoming is all about being. Right? It's a paradox. Becoming is being, and being is becoming. Right? And there's always a next level. There's always a next step into becoming who you are. You're always going to learn more about yourself because you're always going to face tests. You're always going to face trials. You're always going to face tribulations. You're always going to experience aspects in life that really do test your resilience and really do test, are you this person that you say you are? All right, let me throw the same lesson at you again. Let me see how you step up this time. Let me see if you fall back on the same patterns, right? And we really got to be present in order to recognize when our triggers do come up, when our old wounds do come up, when they're poking through a little bit and you can see it and you can feel it and you can process it and be like, I'm not going to let that guide me this time, right? Because I think that's what healing is all about. I think it's kind of an illusion that we ever truly move on from things. I think we just come to more of a place of acceptance. We just come to more of a place of acceptance and letting go of feelings of guilt, letting go of feelings of shame and responsibility in certain aspects. And that's I'll be the first to admit that is a very difficult one for me, is to let go of, especially with some of the things I experienced this year that I have talked about on the podcast a couple times, and it is still vulnerable for me to talk about. Uh, when when my good friend Jess committed suicide, she tried to call me right before, and I didn't answer the phone, right? And so naturally, what does the mind do? What does the heart do? Because the heart is grieving, right? The heart grieves, it hurts, it feels pain. And on top of that, you have this knowing that if you answered the phone, maybe it would have been different, right? And uh, I still, even this past week, last week when it was the full moon, that came up big for me in terms of emotional surrender. I think I sat there and listened to the clip of Good Will Hunting. I love that movie. If anybody's ever seen that movie, you're gonna know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen that movie, after you watch this podcast, go watch that movie because it's probably my favorite movie. And it's funny because it was really the movie was really popping into my head for like a week and a half. Like clips started showing up on my Instagram for it. Um, I had been thinking about it. I think I said it to somebody, and that's when the clips start popping up. The algorithm's listening to me speak. I'll probably go on my phone after I'm done with this podcast, and a Hunting clip's gonna pop up. Um, but there's always a reason why things pop into our head, and I think it's worth exploring when something pops into your head and you're seeing the synchronicities guiding you towards something, right? And it ended up being very important for me. Like, I did it as a meditation, right? Where I just sat and I listened and I closed my eyes and I listened to Robin Williams, this character, um, talking, saying, all he said, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. He said it over and over, over and over. And you see the different stages, almost like kind of laughing it off. Um, then it gets a little awkward, and it gets a little angry, and then you see the character break, right? And he just sobs because he feels it and he gets it, right? And I had to sit with that and almost go through that same process as I'm sitting there listening to being told that, right? And it was a very, very healing thing to do. Um, but that's kind of what healing's all about. Now, does that mean I'm gonna like always feel like, oh yeah, it's not my fault, like all the time? Oh no, of course not. Of course not. But we have to, and I thought intellectually, I thought I was like good on that. So we have to be willing to sit with emotions as they come, sit with the past experiences as they come, but then not define ourselves by them. All right, we have to know who we are. We have to be strong. We have to be resilient. But when you have those moments where you feel like you almost need to like break down a wall, you got to do it because we all got walls up that we don't even have a clue about sometimes that are not even in our awareness. And that's why it's a wall. Like it's blocking the conscious mind from really feeling and really accepting the emotions that are there. And it's for our own safety, it's for our own protection. It's because we don't feel fully safe in actually going in and sitting with those emotions, right? And it happens, those walls break almost through synchronicity when we're willing to follow it, through the callings of the heart when we're willing to follow it, right? I mean, I could have, and it's interesting because that clip came up when it did that night on the full moon. And I watched it once and it like triggered something in me. I'm like, oh man, like I really felt that one. Like, let me, and so I watched it again and it got deeper. And I watched it a third time and it fucking hit. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, that's what I need to hear. That's like, and it hit. And so I was like, all right, that's when I said, let me sit with this. Like, let me really hear him say that. Because it felt like he was talking to me. Right. So I feel like this is kind of a tangent because I'm not really talking about the book and this is about seasons of becoming. But this is what becoming is all about. Right. It is the healing. It is the healing. Because when we look at our world, what is it that we need more of? Like out of anything in this world, what do we need as a society? What do we need as a collective? It's to heal. It's the process. We're also desensitized to violence. We're also desensitized to the horrors, man-made horrors beyond our comprehension in a certain sense that, we shouldn't be desensitized to a lot of these things. And what does this world need? It's healing. The what we see on a macro level, and you name it, whatever comes to mind, think of something that really brings that sense of, that's sad. Just think of it. And that's a reflection of what lives within our own hearts at the individual level. The macro is a reflection of the micro. And I've said that so many times on the podcast, but it's because it's true. And so we have to be willing to fight the wars of the outer world, if you will, and to really bring a deeper level of peace into the world. We have to find peace within ourselves. And when we can find peace within ourselves, and we make that our more natural state of being, and we can show up every day and choose peace, and we can show up every day and choose healing, and we can choose growth. It allows us to stay calm in those moments of chaos. It allows us to come back to our center when we feel triggered. It allows us to, when we are going through something that is difficult, to be the rock, to be the foundation, and to stay strong, right? We need strength. We need strength, and we're all very strong. We're all very capable, but you really have to prove it to yourself over and over again for you to start believing it and for you to start embodying it and really start living it, right? And to see yourself as strong and resilient and a beautiful reflection of divinity, right? Because a life would be pointless. It would be, it would be nothing without hardship. It would be nothing. The joy would be empty without sorrow. The laughter would be meaningless without tears. The love would be passive without knowing the absence of it. Right? So we really need to be willing to look at the wounds that we have on our own hearts and to sit with them and to be present with them and to, one, acknowledge that they are there. Two, to have the strength to come back within ourselves and look in our own eyes, see how the soul has been wounded, and be willing to do the work that is required to patch up those wounds, to love ourselves again, to offer a hand across the divide, to really bring inner peace, not just to ourselves, but to every encounter, every person we meet, to put a smile on the face of, you know, anybody that you come across. That's how we heal the world. It's how we heal ourselves. Because you are the world. You know, it's like the drop in the ocean analogy that Rumi makes, which I absolutely love because it's the truth. The whole ocean lives within you because you are a drop of it. You're not just the drop, you're the whole ocean, but you're just the expression is a drop. That's how it expresses itself. Um, so that's really, we're coming full circle here. That's really what I was hoping to express within the book. Now, I don't necessarily write that directly, but I like to think that through the lens of the experience, kind of see the full cycle transformation to where we open with change. We open in autumn, it's seasonal. We open in autumn, we open in change and transition, and coming back to what is home for me in South Dakota, the winds of the prairies, and feeling the call of the heart, feeling the call of divinity, and leaving behind what was a tower moment for me, a collapse of what I thought was stable and what I thought was true, um, and not really knowing what what to make of it, right? And the winter ended up being stillness, inner reckoning, healing. And then as with spring, there's a rebirth and renewal, but at the same time, um, towards the end of winter, we have more trauma, we have more tests of resiliency. So really, it represents the full cycle of transformation and acceptance and growth that is going to be present within all of our lives if we look over the span of, let's say, 4 seasons, right? And because it was poetry from the previous year, I was kind of able to put it into that context. It wasn't necessarily my original intention as I'm writing these poems to even turn this into a narrative arc, but that's what it became, and that's how I can recognize my own growth, right? I really think to become is both a process of dissolution and surrender, but also creation. As you let go and as you surrender, it creates more space to allow more in, right? If you let go of a certain pain or heavy emotion, you're able to surrender it and you're able to alchemize it. It turns into almost if you were to look at it from a sense of polarity, you got two ends, you got this yin and you got this yang, right? You have heartbreak and you alchemize it, it allows you to then love on a deeper level, right? When you really sit and you really reflect on it, there's a lot of people who take a heartbreak and they never fully process it and they never fully grieve it and they never fully see it for what it is. And what it does is it creates a wall and it creates fear and dissonance, and then it doesn't allow you to step into a greater space of love, right? And I feel like one of the things I'm most grateful for, about myself first, right? Because we really, the first thing you always need to be grateful for is yourself, is for you, is for who you are, is for the resilience that you have and the going through the experiences that you do, and the willingness to continue showing up, right? Because man, there are so many times where, and so many times that I have where I run from pain or I run from trauma, and I don't always do it that consciously. It can be an unconscious response. Um, but I am truly grateful for my own willingness to show up for myself. And what does that look like? It means when I feel a heavy emotion, I'm not going to run from it. I'm not going to hide it. Now, I might not open up about it. I have realized I don't like speaking about my emotions. I don't like giving people the real like, hey, this is what's going on. Because really that's only ever been used against me most of the time. Um, so I'm a lone wolf in that sense, and I probably always, to some degree, I probably always will be, and that's all right. I don't. There are a few people I can probably count them on one hand. Um, there are a few people who I will go to the depths with, and they will see me, and they will give me what I need to hear, and they'll give me the truth. But I'm not gonna. I don't do one. I don't do that regularly. That's not something like that might happen twice, 2 or 3 times a year. I'll have a conversation like that, right? So I don't have the true like emotional like support, I guess, if you will. But there's a part of me that like almost craves it, but there's also a deep part of me that's very grateful for that because it forces me to be accountable with myself first. And I've come to realize that most things I can figure out on my own if I'm really willing to be honest with myself. And so I'm very grateful for that. Right, that I've established within myself the ability to be truthful and the ability to look in the mirror because it is a skill. It is a practice. You have to continually try and do it time and time again. And it's not easy at first, and we're not always honest with ourselves at first. But the more you check in with yourself, the more practices you have that almost show you the truth. Whether that's through reading poems or it's through doing guided meditations, whether it's through certain forms of divination. I really think anything that's going to serve as a mirror is a beneficial tool for you to use, you know. Um, and I've been able to find those things. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for my willingness to step into those roles and step into those things. We don't all have those. We don't. And so I'm a bit of a lone wolf. I think if you have people you can really rely on and have these deeper conversations with, I would encourage you to do so. Um, and I myself, I find I'm more on the other end, if you will, a little bit more than uh like in terms of people expressing their emotions to me. I mean, that's also part of my job. Literally, I work in the mental health field, so I'm grateful to be able to be in that role, and I'm grateful to be able to hold the space for that. Um, so check in with. I would say this. And part of Movember, even here we come back to the mustache. Part of Movember, it's supposed to be men's health, but I actually did it with my friend Jess in mind, obviously, who she took her own life, and so suicide is not really a. Obviously, it's an issue. You don't really realize how devastating something like that is until you experience someone very close to you taking that action. It's impossible, and I wouldn't wish that like that pain on anybody. It don't matter what you've done. It's like that, and then having to bury your own child, and that's something I haven't experienced, but I can't even begin to imagine that type of pain, right? But that is when somebody takes their own life, that is somebody's child, that is somebody's friend, that is, and it's like, man, I wish I could have been there. So check in on or open up to the first person who comes to your mind. Like, just do it. Just do it. Don't even question it because they might need it and you might need it. And you'd be surprised how willing people are to, like, if you're being raw and you're being honest, one, listen, or two, open up if you can hold that space where they feel safe to do so. Right? Not everybody knows how to hold that space, but I know you got that one person in mind who could hold the space or would be willing to open up if you asked. So if you take anything from this podcast, let it be that. Check in on them, open up to them. I think it's needed. But but yeah, no, a big part of becoming is having an emotional awareness and resiliency within yourself. Like we don't always need to be a lone wolf. I mean, it's good to be able to rely on yourself and to look in the mirror, but sometimes we do need the help of others. We are one global, interconnected world here, and I think part of the beauty of like social media, for example, or being able to call somebody on the cell phone and or text. Everybody's got their phone in their hand all the freaking time. That's why if somebody ain't responding to you, well, they're choosing not to respond to you. Um, we all go through things, and it's difficult, and it can be difficult to keep up conversations. But there's always two people there, and and I'm guilty of this in the past, where it's like I almost put my own priorities, or if I'm going through darkness, I don't want to open up about it, and so it ends. You end up like accidentally like letting conversations fall by the wayside that people are trying to engage in with you. And I'm guilty of that in the past for sure. It's something I've had to work on and be more accountable to myself with. And there's quite a few people I've reached out to recently where I'm like, hey, apologize for letting these conversations like just die. Like I just wasn't in the space to hold them. And I should have been more open and honest about that. Right. Um, the whole ghosting thing, man. And like I said, I've been guilty of it. And it's almost shameful to like sit there and think you ghosted somebody, especially when you've been on the receiving end of it. But don't engage in stuff like that. How you do the little things is how you do the big things, right? So if you're going out there and you're not being honest and truthful, one, with yourself, and then two, you're just neglecting all of these other people in your immediate life, based on some story that you're telling yourself within your mind, and you're justifying it based on that. Like, how do you think you're living your life as a whole? Like, how do you think your life is coming together? It's going to be based on those type of actions. So, and that's a hard pill to swallow. It really is. The way you do the little things is how you do the big things when the time comes. And you can't be surprised when your life ends up being a manifestation of those type of choices in that lifestyle. Right. And I've had to really sit with that and know that for myself. Like, hey, this is all my own doing. A lot of this shit that I find myself in, a lot of these fires that I end up having to put out, they probably wouldn't have been there if I just handled a couple small things differently and been more accountable to those smaller choices. Right? Like things probably would have turned out a little bit differently. And here's the thing, once you're accountable with yourself and you see these things, it's really just about coming to a place of acceptance and saying, all right, this is how I've acted, but this is who I want to be instead. This is how I want to show up from now on. And it takes time, it takes practice, but it's a continual process. Right? Let's say you go and reach out to all these people, right? You're not just committing to one message, for example, right? What you're actually committing to is if they want to carry on a conversation, you're going to be there and you're going to show up because you just showed up, right? And maybe you even put in your initial whatever. If you're just apologizing, you're trying to, you say, this is where I'm at in terms of my communication. This is what I'm capable of doing. I'm not going to be able to respond all the time right away. And I apologize, but I just wanted to be open and honest, right? I think we really take for granted people on the other end. We don't like it's kind of sad in this society that it's like things like ghosting are so normalized, or we're almost like too emotionally aware and we justify some of, oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed, therefore I'm going to blow this person off, or I'm not going to be mindful to other people's needs, or I'm going to go, and I'm going to go spiral, right? And you almost sometimes need to be like, even if you are in a moment where things are real dark, you need to still show up. You can't just lay down and die. You know what I mean? Like you can't just, it's gonna feel good in the long run. It's gonna feel like to rip off the band-aids and be accountable for your actions. It's gonna take a weight off your shoulder So, I saw a great post about this, about it being like the concept of having like open loops within your own life. It's like where you meant to send this text, or you meant to have this conversation, or you meant to go and do this, or you meant to pay that bill, and you got all these different things kind of running in the background of your mind all the time. And it mentally drains you. It exhausts you because you have all these things in the back of your mind that you need to do, and you're not really doing them, but you can't really give your full attention to those things because you got so many of them going on top of all of the day-to-day responsibilities that are already present. Right. And I saw that post and I was like, holy shit, that's so true. That is what makes you mentally exhausted. It isn't the day-to-day grind. It isn't the physical exertion necessarily. Right. Because there's times where I'll be on my grind. I'll work 12 hours in a day and I'll go hit the gym for two and I feel fucking amazing at the end of the day and I'm full of energy, right? But then I might have an 8 hour work day and I'm only trying to hit the gym for an hour and I'm tired and I'm fatigued. And it's not like my sleep is different. It's not like my eating is different. What it is, it's the open loops. It's the things I got going on in the back of my mind that I have not attended to, right? And so what I did, and I found it very helpful, I wrote down a list of all these quote unquote open loops, these things that I've been meaning to do and needing to take care of. And there was like 20 things. There was a lot of shit on there. Right. And within the first day, I did like 15 of them. And I told myself as I'm writing these down, I'm like, as I do every single one, I'm going to feel a sense of vitalization, vitality. I'm going to feel my power coming back into me. And I'm going to feel good about doing these things. And I'm going to feel good about myself. And guess what? It fucking worked. Right? Like it fucking worked. I could feel myself almost going into what would be like a burnout, if you will, because I've been like feeling great for like a couple months, and I felt myself kind of slowly going into a burnout, if you will. And I was like, all right, where is this? Like I know where this goes because I've been down there before, and I don't want to spiral to that point. Right? There's been points in my life where I spiral into a burnout and I will blow everything up. I'll blow it all up, everything. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like that's not very like there's a time and place to blow everything up. And I don't want to do that. So how do I stop myself from getting to that point? Right. And it's a very like and that's me learning over the years about myself and about my habits and about what I do when I feel overwhelmed. Right. I'm like, all right, I can't get to that point again. I'm not going to allow myself to do it. So, how do I take a step back here? And then by synchronicity, I see that thing about open loops. And I'm like, that's what I got to do. Shit. Well, that sounds a little scary. Reaching out to all these people, being accountable for some of my actions, going and taking care of these things that I hadn't really been wanting to do. Yeah, that is probably what's going to lead me to burnout if I don't do these things and I just let them run fucking rampant in the back of my mind. But part of becoming and part of being who I need to be is I take care of what I need to take care of, and I'm open and I'm honest and I'm communicative. It's as simple as that. And then choosing to show up for yourself once you have the awareness of it. And I will say, writing it down makes it a whole lot less scary. You know, when you got a whole bunch of things going on in your mind or things that you need to do, it's damn near impossible to just try and think your way through it. Be like, all right, I need to do this. I need to do that. No, just write all that shit down. Check it off as a list. And that doesn't necessarily mean like you're turning them into like the people into a to-do list. Like obviously there is more value in somebody than just in reaching out to somebody in the sense where you're just checking them off your to-do list. That's not what it's about. But organizing your life in that structure and in that fashion and being accountable to yourself, I really do find it important. And something for me moving forward, what I'm doing is as I get things that come up, I'm writing that shit down and I'm holding myself accountable, right? 'Cause I'm not letting myself get to the point where I'm blowing up my fucking life anymore because I don't want to do that. I've done that enough times to where like it's a joke if I allow myself to do that again. Right? It's a joke. Like if I haven't learned at this point, then I'm never gonna fucking learn. Right? And I think we need to have that level of accountability and level of honesty within ourselves. All right. It's funny, man. This podcast is supposed to be about the book, but it's like not really about the book at all, but it kind of is because this is kind of the shit that I've learned over the last year and over this period of growth. And as I'm transitioning out of being heavily focused on the book, forging a new sense of identity and forging a new way of being, how I'm spending my time, what are my new visions, what are my new goals, right? And this is the shit I'm really reflecting on and thinking about. So it is directly related to the book. Like this is kind of what I've learned over the last year about myself, about how I show up for myself and what's important and what matters. And so it's like not really related to the book, but it kind of is at the same time. I don't. I'm certainly not sitting up here trying to sell you the book. Here are 10 reasons why you should buy Seasons of Becoming. Like, fuck that. I'm not no salesman. I couldn't do that anyways. Even at my book launch, I'm just sitting there like, well, if people want to come to me and ask about the book, I'll tell them about it, but I ain't gonna be like, hey, come buy my book. Hey, I got a book launch. Hey, like, I don't fucking care. I'm not there to make money. I'm there to just kind of chill and vibe and hang out. If people want to come talk some poetry or they want to talk to me or they want to, they want to like connect, like cool, I'm there for it. But I ain't gonna force a book down your throat. People, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. And yeah, that's really, I guess this is just a lot of the stuff that I have learned in a sense. And for me, the creative journey is quite interesting because I'm actually some of the visions I'm having for myself. It's an extension of creativity, but it isn't meaning that I'm going to sit down and like just write poems. Like I'm not really in that creative space at the moment. I'm not writing a lot of poems right now, and I think it's because I was so poem focused and poem heavy over the last half a year, really like reflecting on a lot of my experiences and really learning to heal and really learning to grow. So now I'm kind of in almost a building new visions, like planting new seeds type of stage. And when I'm in those stages, I might write a poem or two here or there, but I'm really in like almost grind mode. Like, all right, I got a lot of studying to do, for example, right now. Now I'm not gonna tell you all the things that I'm doing, because sometimes I think if you speak about it too early, well, you're kind of overwatering your seeds a little bit, and you might get some root rot. So I'm a little wary about revealing all the plans I have. I will to a select few people, but I'm not going to sit here and announce all my intentions on the podcast. Y'all just got to stay tuned for what's coming. And there's beautiful things coming. I got some great ideas. I got some great things that I'm working on right now for myself, and how I'll present my work and how I'll show up and what types of spaces I'm going to be holding. A year from now, where I'm at, it might look a lot different than what I'm doing right now, and that's beautiful. That's wonderful. But it's almost too early to announce all those things. So that means I'm not really writing a lot of poetry. It means I'm not talking about all my shit on a podcast, if you will. But I'm studying. I'm learning some new material. I'm expanding my repertoires. I'm expanding my practices. I'm expanding my knowledge base. Right. And so that's kind of been the creative journey for me now. And to get to this point, there is a lot of things that I had to let go of. That's what the book is about, the letting go. It's about the surrendering. I had to endure a lot of dark nights. I had to really sit with myself. I had to look in the mirror. I had to be heartbroken. I had to be devastated. I had to have a dark night of the soul, because ultimately what I'm doing now is I'm rising up from the fucking ashes, baby, and I'm back and I'm being me. And that's what it's all about. And that's where I'm at. And that's where I'm at coming from with this book. And I got the book and it's like a representation of the journey. And I'm kind of like, well, that part of the journey it's almost like done. That's why, like, it's weird, man. Like, not that like I feel like I could go and throw that book into a fire and I wouldn't really care. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, not that it's not meaningful. It's a big aspect and a big self-reflection, but I'm surrendering it. I'm letting it go. I'm like, all right, cool. And I've had the celebration. I've had this is beautiful. This is wonderful. Like, thank you for the ability to put this out there and to really be able to express myself and to really like heal through this process. Like, I'm very grateful for it. But then it's like if you hold on too long to the celebration, you miss the next steps of the journey, if you will, right? So I'm always going to hold a lot of gratitude for that book. It's my favorite one that I've put out. And there's going to be moments where I sit back and I reflect on those lessons and I reflect on that growth. Um, but I feel like the last couple of weeks since it's been done and it's kind of been out there and I'm out there doing these book launches and here I am promoting the book with an episode, it's kind of a death moment. It's kind of a death moment where I'm letting go. I'm surrendering. And there's certain things in my life that I'm surrendering and letting go of and coming to acceptance with um, around other people's how they view me and their, what the roles I let people play in my life and how people show up and the boundaries that I'm placing and the recognition on a lot of these lessons to where now it's time to actually live them, to like where I feel like I've learned them and I feel like I've grown and I feel like I've healed and I really feel like I've stepped into a place where I feel positive about myself and who I've become. Well, now it's time to really, really walk the walk, if you will. I'm not going to sit around waiting to like be validated. I'm going to go be the source of validation through how I show up every single day. Right. And I hope that's what I hope the book can inspire two things. It is that healing journey. It is that surrender. It is that letting go, but it's also the empowerment piece. And I think that's kind of what I'm stepping into now. And it's kind of beautiful to do so, to have an opportunity to die and be reborn again, and to be me fully, authentically, without any sort of restriction. There's a lot of things that's happened over the past year for me that really tested my self-worth, that really lowered my confidence, that really made me question the point. And one of the things that really, really I had to reflect on and think about. So when 2 days before Jess killed herself, I actually talked to her on the phone about, it had to be about 3 hours. We were chatting. And look at this is somebody that had really, really hurt me in the past. Like I'd already like stuck daggers through my chest and like twisted a knife and pulled it back out. And I'm sitting there, fucking bleeding. Like I hadn't fully gotten over that yet, right? So it's fascinating that it almost like for a bigger wound later on. That's not really the point. That's not what I'm talking about. Um, but I remember, and she asked me this a couple times. There is a point before even those initial wounds, she was really having some difficulties. I remember sitting with her. She just asked me, "What's the point? Like, what's the point of the pain? What's the point of the hardship? I don't feel like I'm growing. I don't feel like I can get past a lot of these pains. Life just keeps throwing them at me, right?" She asked me that again, 2 days before she took her own life. And by the time I got off the phone, I thought she was good. I wasn't necessarily like worried that she was going to go and do that. Um, but I struggled to answer that question. What's the point? What's the point of going on? Right. And I don't feel like I gave a good enough answer. And that's part of why I've really felt guilty. Like I didn't have an answer to that because I didn't really know. I didn't know. And there's a part of me that still doesn't always know. Like, I can't rationalize what that point is, but I have felt true love. I have felt true beauty, true divinity, like beyond words. And I have like really going up and watching the Northern Lights today. Like I see something that is so beyond what I can even begin to express through my words. I try to through my fucking poetry, obviously. That's the mark of a great a great poet, I guess, is able to take that expression of something that is just pure love and pure beauty and put it into words that hit your heart. But I haven't really I didn't really know how to say what the point was. And there's part of me that still doesn't know. You almost have to make it like the meaning. It comes from within. You got to be willing to feel it. You got to be willing to see it. You got to be willing to embody it. The reason I called my Substack Deeper Meaning, it was the first thing I explored. It was inspired by a conversation I had with James Tunney, actually, one of the early podcasts I did with him. And we were really getting into etymology on the podcast, and he brought up some words, and he inspired me, and he said, Evan, you should go, because I brought up meaning a few times in that podcast because I was starting to really be interested in the crisis of meaning. Like I heard I think it was John Vervaeke, I don't remember, I don't know how to pronounce the last name, talk about the crisis of meaning. I think I had just listened to that, and so I brought that up to James, and he and I told him, I really want to do some writing on that, or maybe start up some sort of page. And he said, you should really look into the etymology of the word meaning. I think you'll enjoy it. And I went and looked it up, and I was fucking blown away because the original meaning of meaning, like to have a sense of meaning, it's right there in that sentence. Meaning is a sensory perception. And what do I mean by a sensory perception? A sensory perception, it's like your sight, it's like your taste, it's like your smell, it's like your hearing. It is a sense within the body. People talk about like sixth sense. We got more than six senses. There's a whole bunch of different sensory perceptions that we're not always fully attuned to. And so the original understanding of that word was that it was a sense within ourselves. And it was something that we had to tune into. And that stuck with me. That it just hit. I'm like, oh man, that's it. And that's why I titled my Substack Deeper Meaning. Because I want people to come back to that sense of meaning within themselves. And that's why I'm almost not ashamed, but like if I had just been able to elaborate that, maybe things would have been different. And here I go again. I was just talking about, it's funny. I was just talking about like the idea, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And here I am. Here's the rational mind still trying to come up with, oh, you could have done this, you could have done that. Well, yeah, I could have, but I didn't. And I wasn't equipped to do it at the time. And I guess that's okay because that's how it was. And that's how it is. And you come to acceptance. You have to come to acceptance. And we have to give ourselves grace because we're not perfect. We're not gonna get it right all the time. We're gonna screw up a million times along the way. Um, but there is meaning and there is beauty and there is love and there's something that's so far beyond what this mind can even fathom that always makes it worth going on, always worth striving towards and walking hand in hand with every single day, every single moment. It's always there if we choose to take a step back and really sit in it and feel it and embrace it. I mean, that's why the most holy of men, it's like they are an embodiment of God. Well, it's because they have it within their hearts and they see it and they honor it and they live it fucking radically. And that's the bridging of heaven and earth. It's to recognize the divinity of this experience and the holiness that is all around. And it's part of your perception. You're not going to find it out there until you find it in here. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And you might be reminded of it by sunset. You might be reminded of it by the northern lights, the lights of aurora. but it's nothing more than a light show if you haven't found God within your own heart. And when you can really be at peace with that, really accept that, it makes everything you do holy. It makes everything you do sacred. Can you always can you choose to honor that in the most difficult of moments? Can you embrace that and be the calm within the chaos? That's what this world needs. That's how this world's going to heal. It's how this world's going to grow. It's how you're going to grow on an individual level. So I really hope with this poetry book, it can serve as a mirror, it can serve as a medicine, it can serve as a reminder that true love and beauty is always possible. And you don't need anybody else to do it or experience it with. I mean, it's nice, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's people who have let me down and who have, hurt me in the past or, the abandonment wound. I've really had to fucking work on that one. Um, and sometimes I think I bring it on myself. I have many times. But there's people, it's like you see it within them. You see that like spark of divinity and they're not willing to like fully step into it. And it makes me sad more than anything else. Like you can't force somebody to see that side of themselves or to really open their heart in that way. And you can try and you can pry and you can, open yourself up. But to what extent? You can't do it to the point where you're going to lower your own self-worth and to where you're going to be shattered and destroyed. I mean, it's worth doing. I think it's worth doing at least once or twice. Like, I mean, you kind of got to fight for love in certain aspects. Um, but once you've had those moments enough times where people have let you down, you know when to let go, you know when to walk away. And hopefully, what you embodied, if you were in a space of love, if you were in a space of peace, hopefully you planted enough seeds to where those people will allow those seeds to come to fruition in their own time. And it doesn't mean you have to be a part of that path for that to come to fruition. But hopefully you planted those seeds of divinity. Hopefully you planted those seeds of unconditional love in the people who are no longer walking your path with you. And I think everybody comes in and goes in divine timing. It's all orchestrated in some sense. And whether people come back, I mean, you never fucking know. It's hard to know. It doesn't mean the connection is dead if they don't, but it only lives in the heart. And that's all right too, you know? Uh, so I think we're at a time where, it's tough to speak on the collective level. And we talk about that with Dennis a little bit. We talk a decent amount about the collective on my last podcast with Dennis McKenna. Um, I would love to see the world step into love, step into beauty, step into harmony, have it mirrored within our structures and our systems and our politics and all these things. But I understand it's a growing process. It's pain. Like we're in a dark night of the soul collectively, and having been in them individually, I understand how difficult it is to navigate. I understand, like, we're not just gonna fix all this shit overnight. But I think with this being a dark night of the soul collectively, it's an opportunity for individuals to step up and be more empowered and to be more resilient and to walk their path with a bit more authenticity, to recognize that there is nobody, there is nothing coming to save us. And we need to show up and do the work for ourselves first, for our families, for those we love. Um, and we need to be a light within the darkness. If you don't see any light around you, turn inward. Recognize it might be you. All right, you're that soul candle in the darkness, that soul flame. What can you ignite on a collective level under your name? Something to think about, something to reflect on. So I invite everybody to reflect here and now, here in the present moment. What is it you need to surrender? What is it you need to let go of? Feel it within your heart. Breathe into the heart deep. Really feel the presence of love, feel the presence of divinity, feel the presence of grace and gratitude for yourself first. It's important that we do that on a regular basis. What truth within you is asking to be born? What flame is asking to be ignited? What expression of love are you holding back? What walls need to be broken down? How do you need to show up for yourself? And whatever that answer is, there's no wrong answer. How it is for me, it might be different for you. We're going through our own season right now collectively of surrendering, awakening, evolving. And I truly believe in humanity. I believe in mankind because I believe in myself. And I'm no different than any of you. I'm as much of a degenerate and fuck up as most of these people out here. The only difference is that I choose to acknowledge it. It's as simple as that. So that's why I believe in this world. That's why I believe in the love. That's why I believe in the beauty, because the world is shaped by stories. The world is shaped by visions. And it's those who dare to step into this world boldly and courageously with their vision that end up shaping reality. The world is held together by a very select few amount of people who choose to walk in the space of love. You are one of those people. If you're here, you're one of those people. It might feel like a big responsibility, but it only means you just got to walk with love in your heart and let divinity whisper in your ear. It's as simple as that. Every action matters. Every moment matters. So, two seasons of becoming, to address the book directly, I release you now. May you find those who need your light. Surrender. Letting go. Feels good, man. Feels good. Let's go wrap up this podcast episode. May the light of love find your heart and touch you in ways that you can't even begin to imagine. May the grace and the beauty and the divinity that you have been seeking find you, because know that it is seeking you. You might just need to open your eyes and open your heart and let it in. You hear that knock? It's at the door. Open up your heart. Let love win. Don't just let it in. Let it win. Let it shape your world, baby. That's what it's all about. Let's go wrap up this episode, and I'll see you all next time. So long.